Thank you, Presiding Officer. Last Saturday, 16-year-old Caden Moy was stabbed to death on Irvine Beach. And less than 24 hours earlier on Portobello Beach, a 17-year-old was allegedly stabbed. Police Scotland say the number of serious assaults committed by teenagers has risen by 600% in the past 5 years. 2 teenagers have died and 11 injured during a spate of knife incidents involving youths over the past 2 months. Young people do not feel safe. The system does not protect them. So what does John Swinney have to say to parents who tell me they're terrified every time their son or daughter leaves the house?
Thank you. Just before I call the First Minister, could I just remind members that there are a number of active cases in Scotland relating to knife crime which are sub judice, and we also have question 6 today too. And for that reason, because of the age of many of those involved, I would be grateful if members could not refer to details of any criminal proceedings in relation to those incidents. First Minister.
First of all, President Officer, I want to express my sympathy to the family of Caden Moy. It is a tragedy that they are having to come to terms with, and one incident is one incident too many. The disorder and the violence at Irvine Beach and Portobello was totally unacceptable, and as you have indicated, Presiding Officer, Police Scotland are pursuing the relevant incidents. There are 3 approaches the Government takes in relation to the issue of knife crime. First of all, we have education programmes on the danger and the unacceptability of carrying a knife and taking part in violence. Secondly, there is effective punishment where offences are committed. And thirdly, there is sustained school and community engagement with young people around making sure that we create responsible citizens in Scotland, and most of Scotland's young people are responsible citizens. We have seen sustained falls in knife crime in the last 15 years, but I repeat that one incident is one incident too many, and we will act to eradicate such incidents.
Russell Findlay.
Young people don't feel safe due to the sickening rise in youth violence, but this is not happening in a vacuum. It can be linked directly to the policies and actions of this government. The SNP has systematically weakened the justice system, especially in youth justice. They seek to make excuses for those who commit harm, and for those who do commit crimes, they are told there are no consequences for their actions, which means there is no longer any meaningful deterrent. And this inevitably fuels youth violence. This misguided thinking is at the heart of SNP policy making. Surely John Swinney can see that it is not working, and it's time to take a tougher approach.
First Minister.
As I indicated in my earlier answer, there are 3 elements to the approach the Government takes. Great importance is attached to education programmes on the danger and the unacceptability of carrying a knife and being involved in violence. And when we look at the work of the Mentors in Violence Prevention programme, which is directed through Education Scotland, it is delivered in all 32 local authority areas, and young people are involved in that work. And we support the work of the Scottish Violence Reduction Unit to proactively engage with young people to avoid incidents of violence. That's in addition to the work that we take forward to support Medics Against Violence, to engage young people in the work that's also taken forward by YouthLink Scotland to deliver the No Knives, Better Lives training to hundreds of practitioners and young people around the country. So there is proactive work to ensure that these issues are addressed. But there is also firmness in the justice system where incidents take place. It remains open to prosecutors to prosecute a young person if they have committed a serious offence. Our sustained focus on prevention and early intervention is a core part of our strategy, but there is also the steps that can be taken in the criminal justice system to bring people to justice, and I would expect the Crown Office and the judicial system to consider all of these issues in addressing any cases that emerge.
So Findlay.
It seems that John Swinney won't accept that his government bears any responsibility for rising youth violence. But let's look at the SNP's policies. In schools, they won't exclude disruptive and dangerous pupils. official guidelines prevent teachers from being able to instil basic classroom discipline. He talks of firmness in the justice system, but the SNP passed a law banning under-18s from being sent to prison, even if they commit murder. And they decided that more young criminals should not be prosecuted in court. They are instead sent to children's panels, where their interests are the priority and victims are ignored. Then there are the perverse under-25 sentencing guidelines, which prevent criminals, adults by any definition, from being jailed. This approach is weak, it is reckless, and it is costing lives. Is it not time for John Swinney to rethink these harmful policies?
First Minister.
I must correct Mr Findlay on what he said to Parliament today. The Young Persons Guideline, which has been developed by the Scottish Sentencing Council, makes it clear that all sentencing options, including imprisonment, remain open to the court. So it is absolutely vital that that is understood by the public. Now, I will set out that our approach has got to be about education and early intervention and prevention. That's why we invest so much in measures such as the Violence Reduction Unit work and the Mentors in Violence Prevention. And we undertake that work, and we have seen over a 15-year period a sustained fall in knife crime in our society. But I come back to what I said in my first answer. One incident, one tragedy is one too many. But it is vital that it is understood, particularly by those who might perpetrate these offences, that it remains a possibility that imprisonment can be undertaken, and Parliament should properly understand the requirements of the law.
Russell Findlay.
If John Swinney won't listen to me, then perhaps he'll listen to the parents of victims. Here's the mum of a teenager whose daughter was subject to a horrific assault which was filmed. My girl cannot return to school or leave home. She lives in fear while her attacker faces no punishment. The system is broken. Here's the mum of a teenage boy who was the subject of a homophobic attack which was filmed. His attackers face no consequences. We cannot come to terms with what is happening in Scotland. Serious crime is being downgraded. The clear message to us and our son is that people can do what they want to him because he just doesn't matter enough. And here's the mum, a mum who's too fearful to include details of her child's ordeal. Many of the bad kids are in gangs and know there are zero consequences for their actions. Good kids are paying a heavy price. Who is going to stand up and do something that will actually make an impact? Parents want a return to discipline in schools and deterrence in the justice system. So why won't John Swinney listen to them?
First Minister.
Presiding Officer, I fear that Russell Findlay has not been listening to my answers today, because my answers are a combination of the proactive and preventative work which is undertaken by a number of very successful organisations, which over a period since 2008-9 have seen a 69% decrease in emergency hospital admissions due to assault with a sharp object. Now, that is us tackling knife crime in our society. So that prevention work is having an effect. Scotland is a safer country today than it has been in the past. But as I return to my point that one incident is one incident too many. Having said so, that is the work on prevention, which I believe is absolutely vital. But the public cannot look at this exchange and believe there are no consequences for carrying a knife or carrying out an incident. I repeat, the Scottish Sentencing Council guidelines indicate for young people that if all sentencing options, including imprisonment, remain open to the court. So that is what the law says. That's what the guidelines say. And people need to understand the consequences of carrying a knife and committing an offence. There is a risk of imprisonment, and I encourage people to follow the advice issued by Police Scotland on Wednesday, that under no circumstances should young people carry knives in our society. It is dangerous, it is damaging, and young people should not do it.